Now, for the first half of this hour, I want to get Paul Joseph Watson on, who wrote the article last week for PrisonPlanet.com dealing with the open conspiracy, the Bilderberg Group. And, I mean, this is a big deal. They psychologically, for the last half-century, told you there's no world government, no banking elite, no such thing as fractional reserve banking. The Federal Reserve is federal. Just forget about it. Now they've engineered a global collapse. They're bringing in world government. They're preparing to plunge the dollar and the euro even more, openly announcing world government. But all the yuppies have been told it doesn't exist. So even when the news admits world government's here, the yuppie says, well, I'm a winner, and winners don't recognize that exists. So I'm going to let the government take my job and my pension fund because I'm a trendy. Well, they're going to do what they're going to do. We've got to reach out to people that understand what's happening and reverse all this. So a lot of news coming out right now out of Bilderberg. We've also got the Times of London and others reporting the Secretive Bilderberg Club ready for protest. So we've gone from world government not existing to the media admitting it's being set up, and people aren't addressing the puppet presidents and prime ministers anymore. They're addressing the actual power structure, and that's why Brzezinski said 2 weeks ago, top global strategist, that the New World Order is in trouble, because for the first time in world history, the entire globe is awake to the true power structure, so we should all be celebrating. Once the real enemy is identified, they can now be defeated instead of us fighting windmills. Paul Watson joining us from England, break down the latest developments.
Hello, Alex. Good to be back.
And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Paul Watson via video Skype, looking like the Grinch that stole Christmas. Hey, right. Watson, good to have you here with us. A lot going on. So many years interviewing him, and to have him from England on video, it's just weird. Watson, we're about to go to break, but tell us what's coming up after the break.
Well, yeah, the fact that Bilderberg is now an open conspiracy is exemplified today with this London Times article. 10 years ago, the London Times, which is the premier establishment newspaper next to the New York Times and Washington Post, they wouldn't even mention the fact that Bilderberg existed, and now today they're reporting not only who's attending, but what their agenda will be. So, again, that underscores the fact that everything that Bilderberg are talking about is now public and is now in our faces.
Also, you've got a report out at PrisonPlanet.com about Iran announcing $40+ billion of U.S. currency they're going to dump in favor of gold. That should cause some fireworks.
Well, that's right, because Bilderberg are basically in a blind panic about the euro collapsing, because for them it represents the embryonic global currency. We know that the ultimate agenda is to move towards a one world currency, and that's exactly what IMF chief and Bilderberg member Dominique Strauss-Kahn recently said at a meeting of elitists in Zurich. So they're in a blind panic about the situation with the euro, and now that Iran and other central banks in the Gulf are quickly heading for the exit door, it's a big panic situation amongst the Bilderberg members.
Paul Watson joining us via video Skype from England, straight ahead. By the way, the audio is awesome. It's like he's in studio. I love it. Simulcasting it all at PrisonPlanet.tv. If you're not a PrisonPlanet.tv member, it's 15 cents a day. All my films, my book, Watson's book, the live video feed of the show. You can't beat it. Paul Joseph Watson, the editor of PrisonPlanet.com, joins us for the next 20 minutes or so. Then we have London Guardian reporter Charlie Skelton joining us from Spain, the site of Bilderberg, 2010. Watson, you've written a lot of articles about what's happening globally around the planet, what's happening with the economy, with currencies, and, of course, the Bilderberg Group. If we have new listeners tuning in, we're saying, why do we care about the Bilderberg Group? Well, as Jim Tucker and many others have proven, they can predict 2, 3, 4 years beforehand what's going to happen from their sources in Bilderberg, and also talking to people. They'll get there a few days before. I've done this myself a few times. Talk to the servants, the staff at the 5-star hotels, and they'll say, I've been told not to talk to you, I'll be fired. And I go, after you're treated like crud, after you hear them openly laugh about enslaving us, you know, give me your number and I'll call you after the fact. And then they call you going, my God, they're planning to enslave us. I want to tell you. And you find out everything. And we've been on record with all of this. And, of course, it's just one of the big meeting groups of the overall world government. But, Watson, let's break down what's happening with the world government right now. Because the good news from every source, including Zbigniew Brzezinski, one of their top minions, is that they are getting in deep trouble. And, you know, they're kind of like the cartoon cat in a old cartoon with 100 dishes and plates trying to balance things, and it's only a matter of time till they stumble. Of course, in that process, it's going to be very, very messy, should we say. So joining us via video Skype, Paul Joseph Watson, break it down.
Well, yeah, just to pick up on what you just mentioned with the secrecy aspect, they're having problems with leaks coming out of Bilderberg, and obviously this has intensified over the last few years. And now we learn out of the London Times report today that most Bilderberg members, certainly the most prominent ones that are going to be there today, are bringing their own staff. So whereas they'd normally rely on hotel staff to do all the cooking and cleaning and washing and providing all the services for them, now they're bringing their own in-house staff, and that's explicitly to prevent leaks of information getting out to Bilderberg sleuths that are there on the scene. So they're very concerned about secrecy and things coming out. But as we've, you know, the theme is that it is now an open conspiracy, because Bilderberg members who get together once a year are revealing their agenda to their own flock beforehand. And this comes out in CFR speeches and in speeches such as the one I mentioned before the break, Dominique Strauss-Kahn, who gave a speech in Zurich. So all this is coming out before they even meet, which is why the topics of their conversations are already known to us beforehand. And certainly top of the agenda this year is the collapse of the euro, because for Bilderberg, the euro represents their embryonic one-world currency. Now, they already broke the terms of their own Maastricht Treaty to bail out Greece, which they said they would never do. But they did it because they're in a blind panic about the fact that the euro is basically on its way out. You've got Iran, you've got other central banks fleeing from the currency. And if the euro were to go under, then it would expose the inherent weakness of continental monetary unions, and that would all but derail their wider agenda for a one-world currency. And,
of course, I had Greg Palast on, who I want to get back on, by the way, next week, guys. I had him on a few weeks ago, and he talked about meeting with some of the BBC reporter, high level, with some of the founders of Euro, and they bragged. The Euro was set up to take control of nations and rob them as an IMF World Bank extraction arm, just like they do Africa, Asia, Latin America. And that this was the plan all along. And so they're holding Europe hostage, saying, we're going to economically destroy you, and you're going to give us all your money and your pension funds and everything. And our media is selling it like, oh, those lazy Europeans, they just want 3 vacations a year, and you know, they want to be able to retire when they're 55 instead of 65. They deserve what's happening. The truth is we can produce unlimited wealth if this fractional reserve debt black hole was removed. This is not free market. This is parasite market. So the battle is joined with Deutschland, Germany, which are big New World Order people, saying politically, no, we're not going along with fresh rounds of looting. So all is not well in the kingdom of the New World Order.
Well, that's right. I mean, that's exactly what Brzezinski said during his CFR speech a couple of weeks ago, that not only was there a global awakening taking place amongst the people, but there was massive infighting within the elite itself, and Germany is very upset about what the EU what certain blocks of the EU were forced to do with Greece. So now at the Bilderberg conference in Barcelona, just outside Barcelona, the key men who will be attending are from Spain, obviously, but not only because it's in Spain, but because Spain could become the next Greece. And if Spain goes the same way as Greece, then the euro is basically heading for the toilet.
Yeah, they've already lost their AAA rating last week.
Yeah, they lost the AAA rating, so now the Spanish Prime Minister, Luis Rodriguez Zapatero, is going to give the keynote opening address at Bilderberg, and he's going to be accompanied by the Spanish Foreign Minister as well as Spain's former Economy Minister. So they're basically there to try and reassure the Bilderberg members that Spain won't go the same way as Greece with massive crippling debts, which of course lead to these austerity measures which provoke the riots that we've seen across Greece in the last couple of months. So you've got a heavy presence from Spain, and that's because Spain is in trouble. Part of their problem is not just related to the economic meltdown, it's because of Spain's disastrous effort to implement the green economy,